So I am here with my mum. Hi, Mum.
Hi, Deb.
And we are talking death, because why not? So, Mum,
Yes, Deborah.
how would you define death? What is death?
I don't know how I would define it really. I think it's the end of one thing but the beginning of another.
Okay, I like that.
So I see it as the bridge really between here and eternity.
Okay, I like that. End of one thing, beginning of another. Now death. You've encountered death, as in the physical loss of somebody that you know and love, on a number of occasions.
Yes, several people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I suppose I'd encountered it professionally.
Yeah. So tell me about the professional encounters. What stands out? What?
I don't know. It was just always so sad. I mean, you knew. Usually, it was expected. I think that makes a difference. It's a long while ago. I think the sad things were when we had stillbirths. I think that was the saddest part. I think, when people come to the end of life, then it's a natural occurrence. But if it's a baby or a child, then that's hard.
Yeah. And hard for you as a professional support in the family.
Well, yes,
but
because
sad for them.
In a sense, you feel as though you've failed. This child ought not to have died or whatever. I think that's how you feel.
Yeah, regardless of whether you could have done anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're not God, are we? So.
No. Okay. And then on a personal level?
Well, I suppose it was, I'm going to say, a natural process in a sense of my parents and then my husband. I mean, Graham's death was not anticipated or expected at that age, really.
No.
I would have liked him to have still been around, but...
Me too.
Yeah, I bet you would.
Both would. So what, talk me through that. I mean, obviously, I know, it was all very quick, wasn't it, really?
I'm trying to think, Deborah. How was he? 40-something, wasn't he?
It's 41.
Yeah. And it was when we were at Nuneaton.
Yeah, we'd just moved house.
Yeah. Yeah, so... Although it was, in a way, it was nice for him because he was back in his... He was brought up in Bedworth, so he was back in his home county and his mum was around. I'm not sure whether that was nice for him. I don't know what it was for me.
She was a strange lady, wasn't she?
Oh, bless her. Well, I mean, it was hard for her because she wasn't his natural mother.
No.
So I don't think she found it, and I don't think Dad Sharp helped because he just got on with life and get on with it yourself, So I don't think he was supportive of her in that sense. But I tried to be. Oh, we got on quite well together. We used to shop together and do things together. So yeah.
Yeah. And then Dad was diagnosed with cancer, from what I remember, around the October half term. We'd gone to Grandad's, and you and him.
We went home. We went back to Nuneaton, didn't we? And you left you with your granddad, or Grandad and Christopher. And Timothy was across the road playing with Christopher, wasn't he? I think that was a relief for Grandad. And we went back to Nuneaton, didn't we?
Yeah.
And took Graham into the hospital. I think I knew, I think you, well, I suppose professionally I knew that he was not going to get better before anybody told us. But in a sense, we faced it together, really. We could talk about things. Your dad wasn't frightened of talking about it, as far as I remember. It's a long while ago, Dad.
It is a long while ago. It's over 30 years.
Yeah.
And then, I think we had about 6 weeks, didn't we? He stayed at home.
He stayed at home, yeah. I wanted him at home. And the nurses came in every day, twice a day.
See, I don't remember the nurses coming in now.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did come in. So I had that sort of support. I don't know what other support I had really. Who was it? One of the local preachers,
Paul Taylor.
Paul Taylor, that's it. Yeah, that's right. He was very good.
Yeah.
he gave me support. People did support me, but you just got to experience it. You can't, you know you've got to go through it, and in a sense, the act of dying didn't frighten me.
You'd seen it before.
I'd seen it before. I'd experienced it with patients and family, and so that wasn't it. It was just your dad going.
Yeah. So tell me about the night that he died.
I don't know whether I can remember. I think he died in the early hours, didn't he? About 1 o'clock in the morning.
He did. You've told me before that you were singing or something together. He was.
Oh yeah, we were singing. Yeah, that's right. We were. The cook kicked him a racket, wasn't we?
He didn't wake me up.
It's a wonder. Yeah. I don't remember a lot about it now. That's funny, isn't it? Whether I've blanked that out, I don't know. I mean, and I think it must have been about 1 o'clock in the morning. Was his mum there? Did his mum come over? I think she did.
I don't know. I know when I woke up to the sound of the doctors and the funeral directors and the commotion as opposed to anything else.
I think his mum came over, which wasn't entirely helpful, but I couldn't say to her, get out, could I?
Not really, I suppose.
She'd known him longer than I had, really. But, yeah. Although, of course, he was only her stepson, wasn't he? So, yeah. I don't remember a lot about it, I must admit. I mean, he went to sleep, basically.
Yeah.
It wasn't painful, it wasn't distressing, except the fact that he'd gone, I think it's the aftermath, really, which is but then, you see, those early days, you've got so many things you've got to do and people to see and arrangements to make, and so you're kept occupied, which I think helps.
Yeah. You had 2 young children to
I don't know whether
out.
you got neglected. I don't know.
I never felt neglected.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had to tell you, of course, didn't I? And I don't remember doing that.
Well, I knew. I remember waking up, so my recollection of that night, I remember going to bed. I remember not going to say goodnight to Dad, and I always had done. And that's the one thing that I'm always been slightly gutted by. That night I just didn't go in. I don't know why.
Because there was a lot going on.
And I woke up in the night to all the noise, and everyone was downstairs. So I opened the door to your bedroom and looked in, and I could see him lying there, but with a sheet over his head. So I knew he'd gone. So I went back to my room and then just waited till. But then I don't remember talking to you about it. But you must have told us either in the middle of the night or the next morning. But I don't remember any more than that. I told you till
the morning because I don't think I
realised
realised you
just
were
stayed
awake.
in bed. Yeah.
But you knew it was going to happen, didn't you? I talked to you about it previously, hadn't I?
We talked about it, you and me, we talked about it with Tim. Tim and I remember we'd sat on the bed with Dad when you must have been out at work or out somewhere. And we'd sat on the bed with Dad and we talked about heaven, and Dad had been very open about what he thought and what he wanted for me and Tim. And we as a family, I think we'd faced it.
Well, we shared everything, didn't we? I think we were a family that talked.
Yeah, definitely.
Which was good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was good for me afterwards as well. And Edith was good, wasn't she?
Edith was great. She was a real support to all of us, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. But
then that week after, so Dad died on the Monday, and you arranged the funeral for the following Friday. It's quite a quick turnaround. What happened on that Friday night? Do you remember that?
Was that when Uncle Bert died?
It was Grandad.
Granddad.
Your dad, wasn't it?
My dad, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
So Grandad was staying with us.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And on the Friday night after the funeral, everybody had been round to our house, hadn't they, for, I suppose, what people call the wake. I don't know that we
never
called it that.
The wake, but everybody did come for refreshments.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite people from...
house full, wasn't it?
Oh, a lot of people from church, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, we hadn't been there that long, had we? So I didn't know them that well.
Yeah. So they all came round, and then they must have all disappeared gradually over the evening. And I remember going to bed that night and feeling like I needed to go and say goodnight to Grandad. And I'd never gone into his bedroom to say goodnight, but I went in that night.
Oh, that was nice.
And I said goodnight, and he didn't wake up. So Do you remember much about that?
No, I don't remember much about that at all. I know we just had to get on and arrange another funeral.
And then in the January, Uncle Bert.
Oh, do you know, I can't remember that. Did he die in the January?
He did, yeah. You found him. Got a call from the neighbours.
Oh, I did. He hadn't drawn his curtains, had he? And I went in. Where are they? Found him. I think I found him in bed. Was he downstairs in the chair? I know I went across the road for something. I don't know, I went across the road for the key, perhaps. I don't know. Oh, I did have a key. Anyway, yeah, so we had his funeral to do. I thought I'm getting an expert at this.
You were getting good at it by then, weren't you?
Yeah, so that was, because that was at Bedworth Chapel.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't remember. Did Ralph take it?
I think he might have done, yeah.
Yeah, I think he did. Weren't many there, were there? There was just a
No.
row of us, wasn't
Yeah.
there? Yeah. That was
Cold,
sad. I
yeah.
found that really sad
Yeah.
because Uncle Bert hadn't mixed a lot, had he really?
No.
Made a lot of friends. Bless him. But I was very fond of Uncle Bert.
Yeah, I think we all were, weren't we?
Yeah, we used to give you sweets every time.
We did, yeah. Fruit pastels. So how would you say that those 3 weeks, 3 deaths in around 3 weeks, how did you get through that? How did that impact you? What was that like?
Well, I'd got to go back to work, hadn't I?
Mm.
And I think that made a big difference. I think the fact that I was going back to work and getting on with the other side of life, really, the beginning of life, made a difference to, you know, if I hadn't have had a job, I think it would have been more difficult. But I think, I can't remember much about my feelings then. I just got on with it because, well, that's what I do, so. Yeah. And I'm glad I went back to work and, you know.
Yeah.
I think people pussyfooted round me a bit, which was a bit irritating, but...
What, at work or?
At work, yeah. Well, they don't know what to say, do they?
No.
And they don't know whether to say anything or nothing or what, and I tried to be, well, I don't know, I was just me.
It's partly why we're doing these interviews and these videos, is because people don't easily talk about death, especially not with somebody that's just experienced, well, loss of any kind, but especially significant, you know, losing a husband, father and uncle all in the same...
Well, 3 weeks, was it 3 weeks?
3 weeks,
3 weeks,
yeah.
It was, wasn't it? Well, at least I got used to arranging funerals.
You knew the funeral directors well, didn't you? DeVals.
DeVals, they were nice though.
They were good.
Lovely firm, very nice people, and very supportive. Yeah, I found them very helpful. Yeah, on the green at
Attleborough.
Yeah. Goodness, it's a long time ago, Deborah.
It is. So those were those 3 deaths. You mentioned previously your mum had died when it was before I was born.
Yeah.
You had a great phrase for how she saw death, or how you saw death through her.
Did I?
It's about being given grace. What was the phrase?
You're not given dying grace for living.
Right. So when does that mean that when you're
dying, you're given the grace to die, basically. Yeah. You're not. I think that's what she used to say.
And have you seen that in people over the years? When people have come close to death, or you've watched someone die, do you see a difference in that moment for those people? What's your...
I don't know that I've been with that many people that have died since then, really, because the job changed, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's true. I think you get given dying grace when you need it.
Yeah.
Whether it's your death or somebody else's death.
Yeah. So it's, when you sit and think about it in the normal light of day, it seems like something you'd never be able to cope with, but actually when it happens,
yes,
there's an energy, a strength, a grace.
Yes, you're given the grace to get through it. When you go through it, you're not given, well, I'm going to say anticipatory grace, are you?
No, I think that's interesting. I like that, because I think a lot of people wonder how they would cope. I mean, I know I've, as a mum, you go over and over it in your mind. Oh gosh, how on earth would I cope if anything happened to my children? And I don't think I would, but I wonder, when you have to go through those things,
Well, you just have to get on with it because
Yeah.
you know you've got to eat and drink, and there are other people in your life that you've got to look after, and so I think if there are other people in your life that you've got to look after, it helps.
Yeah.
You know, so that you're still, I say, a useful person. You not your life doesn't
Okay.
just end.
Something else that gives you kind of meaning and purpose.
Yes, yeah. In that sense, he's not around, but whether I would do if he was still around is another matter.
I can't say that.
I just did.
Oh dear. I think you would. It's one thing I never would have imagined was that you'd separate. So.
No, I couldn't imagine. Well, I think when we made our vows, we meant them, you know,
Yeah.
till death us do part.
Mm.
And it was death that parted us, so
Yeah.
there you go. I'm used to being on my own now, though. I don't think I could live with anybody now.
No, especially not a man. They're hard to live with.
Oh, Deb. It's not that hard to live with.
It's not that hard to live with, no. It's great. Okay, well, thank you for talking about death and relationships.